This conference will now be recorded.
Dad.
So again, new resort project located on an existing 34-acre property, currently known as the Anchorage. There's roughly 30 cottages that were there. Those have been removed. And what we propose is a new 114-room hotel located on the existing portion of the property where the Anchorage previously stood. So with that, we have a new 114 guest rooms, a restaurant, a gathering hall, and a spa, along with other amenities in the hotel. So the new hotel sits along an existing embankment. We can get into the site plan in a moment. On, again, that existing portion of the property that was previously disturbed, we have access to that with a new entrance to the property, which will be, we have DOT working with us on a new turning and deceleration lanes. As you enter the property, you go through an existing forested area, which is roughly about 27 acres of an existing forest that we're looking to preserve. That then loops around as you come to the entrance of the building. And we have parking past the building as well for people coming to that event facility. So the building situated on an existing embankment, that goes down to an existing lawn that spills down to the lake. There's a platform on the waterfront, as well as a boathouse, a couple of docks. There's 2 beaches on the northern portion of the property that we're looking to preserve. And then again, the majority of the property is an existing wooded area that we're looking to maintain. So if we want to get into, and I can get into kind of the details on the site plan, step over. And so here we have, there's an existing turning lane here. It's an existing lane that has essentially been abandoned by the town. And that provides access to both this adjacent property and the Anchorage itself. What we proposed is that turning lane is going to be with that entry drive. We're going to be removing that entry drive, planting new vegetation across the road. You're roughly, as you're coming down the road, you're about 14 feet below the property. At that point, there's an existing embankment, so you don't actually ever see the property from the road here. So that new entrance drive, we have a new turning lane and deceleration lane, which we're working with the Department of Transportation on the permitting for that. So we'll be widening the road in this area to mitigate any traffic issues that may come up with that. And we have a third-party traffic study, Pernow, doing traffic studies, and we have those preliminary calculations we can review tonight as well. So as you come onto the property, we have a maintenance facility in this corner of the lot. Again, that'll be a 30 by 40 just maintenance facility with some additional parking for valet parking that would use that. As you come into the property, this existed wooded area, you'll see ghosted in, there's 2 circles here. That is the public water supply for the property. We're putting in 2 wells. We're not allowed to build anything on that within this well area. That's a protected area. So that will remain forested. We can have walking trails, but no built structures. So 2 new well locations for public water to the building. So this is serviced by town sewer, but not town water.
So it's private?
Yes, private wells. It's classified, the state classifies it as a public water supply. That's a licensing classification that we'll go through. This will be licensed with the state, and there's routine quarterly testing that goes along with the water on the property. So again, as you come in, the main parking area for the inn will be located just off of, there's an existing drive that comes down to the property now. You meander into the property. There's 2 existing crossings. There's a wetlands that runs down the middle of the property here. There's some drainage that comes down off the hill, goes under the road, and then flows down towards the lake. So there's 2 existing crossings currently. There's a road crossing here and another crossing here. We're on the existing plan. Again, I know this is hard to see, but there's two crossings here. So we've proposed the new road follows the path of that existing crossing and then comes up to the building. This existing embankment situated in the hotel along that. Again, you come into the main entry drive, we have an inn, there's the spa located off the one side, and then there's an event facility off to the other side, servicing the 114 rooms in the inn. Come around, we have additional parking for both events, employees, and patrons of the inn. Again, this parking lot is roughly 14 feet above the road here. So as you're driving south on Route 3, you never actually see the property. There's an existing embankment, it's vegetated as you come around. And then as you come from the south heading north, there's a pretty clear shot. Now that we've removed all of the cottages, you can see the water through there. We're going to be replanting that area in front of the road. So this existing lawn all is, again, it's an existing lawn. We're looking to preserve that. And then you come over to, there's two beaches on the property. Those will remain. Well, I'm not proposing really to expand those or anything. It's within the 50. We're not allowed to do any work there. And then as you come around the property, the goal really, as the preserve speaks to that, is to preserve the property and the forests around that. There was an existing house down here on the point. We're proposing a small pavilion structure, a covered structure where people can go down and get in out of the rain, and within the next week or so, get in and out of the bugs. We have a couple of areas for boats. We know that boat traffic is a concern, which is also a concern of ours. We're not proposing to put in a marina or have any extensive boat traffic here. The only boats that we would be allowing here is if you make a reservation for dinner, we'll have 6 to 10 slips that you can also reserve for dinner, but it would be reservations only. We're not going to have open boat slips. And then we'll have a few boat slips for sailboats, sunfishes, a small Boston whaler that would allow patrons to go out onto the water. But we're not going to have this. This won't be open to bring your own boat, launch it. There's no boat launch on the property. So we'll have, the goal is down here in this code is to really focus on the human powered or the wind powered boating. Protected, you're not out in the kind of the open areas where there is motorboat traffic. So we have sailboats, canoes, kayaks, and that would really be focused in the code here. And then we'll have a few docks for if you want to come with a reservation, or if you're going to go out and enjoy the lake on one of the boats, the actual preserved boats. So we're not going to be having any rental slips or allowing people to trailer the boats and come and go on the property. And then as you come around, we are showing with 4 cottages here on this knoll. There's an existing orchard in this location, which we propose to maintain that and keep it. We're going to be replanting those trees there beyond salvageable. And then a incubator's cottage, so we will have an incubator on property at all times, kind of maintaining and just kind of overseeing. So that's kind of the overall property in a nutshell. We have Adam here from the landscape architect. If you wanted to touch base on that a little bit, or
Question.
that's kind of the overalls. I don't know if you want to get into elevations or if you guys had any questions. Kind of focus on the site plan now, and then we can look at the building after that. I did hand out a parking summary.
Top of the parking, lighting.
Yeah.
And actually, I think this, Michael, just so that
So the parking summary I provided, we have roughly 275 parking spaces for the property. And that takes into account the necessary parking spaces needed for the guest rooms, also all of the employees that would be associated with that. And then the areas of the restaurants and other areas within the kind of the grounds of the property, say the bar, the restaurant. We've taken into account, say if this place is 100% occupancy, then the majority of those patrons would be using the restaurant. using the bar. So, because say the restaurant's going to be by reservation, so we've taken a deduction of 7% for the bar, the restaurant. You can see how we've done those calculations. Knowing that if this place is full, the restaurant's going to be full, we're still accounting for an additional 30% of outside patrons coming to the building, but we didn't have a parking summary of if we have 114 guest rooms, so 230 people at the hotel, plus another 70 people in the restaurant, it's not feasible. So the restaurant, we have roughly seating capacity for 125, which would equal roughly, say if this was a standalone restaurant, 62. So we've taken 43 of those cars to be associated with actual patrons of the hotel. So they've already parked, they're already staying there. Now they're using, say, the restaurant for breakfast or for dinner. Because this is a resort hotel. It's not a come and go. Plan is for people come, they stay for the weekend, they stay for the week. Really, it's to get away and enjoy the grounds. So that's, you can see kind of how we've accommodated the parking counts. Taking full count for the inn and all the guests, all the employees, the spa as well, and then the additional, say if you were going to be having a wedding here, those patrons would be staying at the hotel, would also be patrons of the event itself. Knowing that.
But everybody at the wedding wouldn't necessarily be staying local, right?
Correct, yeah, and that's where, say the ballroom is for 213, so we're still accounting for 40 additional cars for the ballroom, which would mean 80 additional guests there. So again, that would put us at our maximum allowed by fire code anyways. So it's just, we would never get above that. There's not enough space in the building for that. We have reviewed this with the fire department in terms of traffic flow. They reviewed, bringing their trucks in and having areas to turn around. So they were, they've accepted that. We're going to continue working with them on that. We will have, the building will be fully sprinkled. We'll have a pump system because again, we're on private water, but it will be fully sprinkled.
So you're going to have a cistern, or you're just going to pump it right out of the wells and fire supply?
Well, we won't get the gallons per minute out of the wells.
Right.
So we're looking into either we'll have cisterns under this lawn here.
Okay.
So, or we'll be drawing water from the lake.
From the lake.
We have to work with shoreline.
So will there be a connection from the lake to some kind of a hydrant, or in case the fire trucks can't get behind it to tie into the cistern?
Yes, and we've also talked about having some hydrants in the parking lot as well in case there's an issue with the car out here. So we'll have, not only will the building be sprinkled, we're going to have, and this is really, we're looking for the fire department to tell us we want a hydrant in this location. And we're going to be providing that. Hydrants, adjacent to the building as well as in the parking areas. So the car catches on fire.
I've got quite a few questions. You removed 34 cottages. At capacity, how many guests will they accommodate?
I don't know the exact room count in those cottages. I know some were 2-bedroom units, some were single. Say if they were single units, that would be 60 patrons.
Okay, so you're talking about doubling the number of guests probably.
Roughly, yes.
Roughly,
Yep.
okay. You said there are 2 beaches and you're going to preserve those. Are you going to build any additional beaches?
No, we have 2 beaches here, and then there's an existing beach in this location, and an existing beach over here. Those we're looking to preserve, but we won't be building any new beaches.
And who will be allowed to use those beaches?
This will be for patrons.
Yes.
Yes, guests of the hotel.
All right. Okay. Maintenance facility. What's going to be housed in that maintenance facility?
A plow truck, a tractor, some lawnmowers, and probably like a side-by-side grader type of utility golf cart.
So you'll be doing your own snow plowing.
Yes.
Where do you plan to store the snow?
Snow will be on the parking lots. We have areas where we're going to be pushing it off the edge here. And then along this wall, we are going to be having a 2 to 3 foot stone wall along this edge of the parking lot. And that's mainly to block headlights. So when you're leaving, you're not shining lights on the lake. So that snow would be pushed off the edge there. And then this snow would be pushed off the edge. But we will have, drainage to mitigate all that. We'll have retention ponds.
Let's look.
And that's, you could probably speak to this best. We're looking at kind of a retention area here for runoff. We'll be taking any of the water from and putting it in a stormwater runoff pond. So that's something that we're going to be working on, actually designing those ponds and where they go.
Are there 2 wells new?
These are 2 new wells. There's an existing well down here on the point, which we won't be using for water for the building. It's more of a kind of single family home type of well. And that would just be providing water to the pavilion out by the point.
Okay. Are you gonna take down trees at all?
Yes. We have walked the site and met with an arborist. There are a few trees that are, deemed unsalvageable. Woodpeckers have had a good time out here. So those are going to come down. We are going to be thinning the forest. There's a significant amount of downfall that we're going to clean up in this area. We're not looking to take down extensive.
But the arborist is gonna consult you on that in terms of thinning the forest,
Yes,
as opposed to just taking down trees willy-nilly.
correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's marking the trees that are going to need to be taken down or are going to be coming down within the next 5 years. And then really all of this forest we're looking to maintain and really preserve the shoreline.
Because you talked about boat slips.
Yep.
How many boat slips when you say boat slips?
We're, because of the shoreline, about 3,200 feet of shoreline, we're allowed to have roughly 42, I think, boat slips. We haven't locked in the final amount, but we're looking at, a dozen slips or so. Not looking for extensive amount of boats. And
What's their now, Chris?
I don't know the exact amount off the top of my head. I know that, for the shoreline, because of the length of it, we could scatter 42 boat slips around. We're looking to keep really all of the motorboat traffic to this one area here. And really keep this as more of canoes, kayaks, kind of human powered water.
So you
sports.
won't need boat slips for that. I guess I'm looking for a more definitive answer in terms of not how many you will be allowed to have,
Mhm.
but how many you plan to have. Because that's a concern, I think, of not just mine, but the surrounding community.
Yeah, ours as well. I'm gonna have to get back to you. That would be at our next meeting. We'll have the exact
Okay.
amount.
All right. You said, and that maybe on a slip of the tongue, restaurants. Is there just one restaurant?
There's a restaurant, and then there's also a bar that is
Okay.
associated with that. We had only one kind of formal restaurant.
Okay. But food will be served in the bar, so that's why you said restaurant?
Yep.
Okay.
And that restaurant will service the wedding venue as well. Right?
Yeah, we have one main kitchen that both services the restaurant, the bar, and then any room service, as well as the kind of the events facility.
All right, thank you.
And in terms of traffic, in our studies, we've looked at the data that we have from DOT in terms of the amount of cars coming through here was taken in in August. So it's midday on a Saturday. You have your most traffic passing this site. And we're at roughly 43 or 45 cars in the eastbound and 45 cars in the westbound.
In what period of time?
That's over an hour. So the busiest hour of the day is between 12 and 1 o'clock on a Saturday. And there's roughly 1,464 cars past this property on a Saturday.
A lot of cars.
Yeah, so that's the existing traffic passing there.
Right.
So we're adding 45 cars in each direction out of the 1,400. So
I did a traffic count yesterday at 9:25, from 9:25 to 9:30 yesterday morning. That's a slow traffic time. And I counted 30 cars in 5 minutes. That's 600 cars an hour in 9:30 in the morning.
Mhm.
It's only gonna get worse from there.
Yeah, although we're adding we're adding a lane, a deceleration lane and a turning lane.
My concern is if you have a gridlock here and there's an emergency vehicle that's gotta get through to go to the hospital, where are they gonna go?
We shouldn't ever, like, we're not going to interfere the current traffic flow, because anybody turning in would have pulled off. They'll be pulling out of the traffic. So if anything, I think we're going to be improving the traffic to this property, where currently, when you come in, you got to stop and wait and turn. In our new proposal, you'll have a turning lane, so you'll be off to the side of traffic. And we're only talking 45 cars out of 1,400 cars in addition. So it's really essentially imperceivable amount of additional traffic. And on a busy day, there's roughly 20,000 vehicles that pass
That's right.
in a day.
That's
I
right.
think we've had a lot, we have experience with a lot of traffic studies because we've had a lot of projects that have caused us concern with traffic. And I think the average is usually 30 to 40,000 cars per day
Per day.
on Route 3 in the height of the summer traffic. So if you're talking an additional 45 or whatever cars, that's not a concern of mine. I just have that to say. Christine, do you have any questions?
Yes. Are the cottages year-round?
These cottages will be, yes. And these are not cottages where, like, you come and stay for the summer. These would be like a exclusive hotel room. So you come, you book the room for 3 nights, and you stay there and you leave. It's not meant for, staying for the whole summer.
As far as the traffic, when you mentioned these additional cars that are not
Christine, can you just pull your
patrons.
mic a little bit? I know it's really-
Oh,
Thank you.
where was I? So you had determined a certain additional number of cars for events or for patrons and their families or whatever. What about if somebody just wants to go to the restaurant? Is that accounted for?
That would be, say, if the restaurant, we have all the guests in the hotel at the restaurant, we still have an additional 26.75, so 26 parking spaces for additional people to go to that.
So the bar and restaurant is just open to the general public?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. How are you going to prevent people going down to the docks and the beaches? Are you doing a gate or parking tags or just coming off the street with their trailing boats or kayaks or whatnot?
Really, with the way we've laid it out, where you come in and you kind of meander through the forest, and we've done that for a reason. Like, we wanted to set the tone that you're in the woods, you're on the lake, you're out of the the hustle and the bustle of Route 3 and back to 93. You come to the front of the building, you've really got to pass through the front door, come through the facility before you can get down to the waterfront. So we're not looking at having gates and attendees, but if it does become a problem, I'm sure we'll have, just like at the docks, we will have an attendant at the dock, so that if you pull up and you want to park there, you're going to need to prove that you have a reservation. So we would have an attendee that would kind of deal with that.
Because there's a road that goes down to these cottages and they could just go down and then a road down to this pavilion, it looks like.
Yeah, and that's
I want
where,
a kayak or something.
yeah, I mean, the property is really meant for that. Our goal, our hope is that we don't have a lot of just people showing up looking to party on the beach, but if there is, we'd have to ask them to leave. So we would have, attendees taking care of that.
So you'll have an attendee at the main dock, the motorboat side.
Kind of in this area.
Is there an attendee at the pavilion side?
We would have somebody down here, if you're coming down to pick up a canoe or kayak, we would have somebody down there, kind of assisting guests with that.
Okay, and what about these other existing beaches? There's not going to be attendees there, are there?
Right now, we haven't planned on having somebody there all the time, but there's gonna be people meandering about the property throughout the day to kind of just oversee stuff.
And are the attendees just during the day?
I would assume that we'd have, evening guests and in the morning, so there'll be people there. We are gonna have somebody here, manning the hotel 24 hours a day, as well as the innkeeper will be here 24/7.
Do you have a security system?
There will be a full security system, cameras in the parking lots, cameras at the waterfronts and then
Okay.
throughout the hotel.
Okay.
And then also with the fire suppression system that's monitored as well. Elevators will have cameras in them as well, kind of throughout the property.
And I thought you had said that people aren't going to be able to trailer boats. Are guests going to bring their own boats, or are you providing these boats? Both
No, we-
motor and kayak?
Again, we haven't fully defined what the boats would be available, but our intention is not to have guests come trailer their boats. You're not going to have a ability to launch your boat here.
Okay.
So if you want to come and go out in a pontoon boat that we have here on the property,
Okay.
you'd be able to do that.
They
We're not
can
gonna
rent
have
it
any
or
boats.
Okay.
Well, we're also not looking at renting extensive amounts of boats. There's enough of that happens down the other side of the lake. That's their business.
Okay. John?
Couple questions. Where would you be storing your trash and garbage?
Trash and garbage will be, actually got this covered area here, which is a service and loading dock. So loading can come in, they back into, actually the rubbish bins will be hidden in and screened so that the guests won't be seeing that. And when trucks come and go at early morning hours, it's not a disruption. So, and then we'll have additional storage over here for the maintenance.
The other thing, fuel storage?
I don't see any, extensive fuel storage. We'll have propane tanks buried on the property. We'll have a propane farm. And then over at the maintenance facility, they'll have vehicles that would have gasoline in them and then some, small 5-gallon drums for lawnmowers and such, but
No, like, 100-gallon tank to fill up golf carts or whatever.
no.
Or,
I mean,
lawnmowers.
to be
snowplows,
determined as of
yeah.
right now. Haven't gotten into actually what goes into here, but we're not planning on having like our own gas pumps for the maintenance vehicles. Because again, it's fairly limited, tractor, a couple of pickup trucks, and then a gator or two to drive around and maintain the property.
The other thing is, I noticed that the parking lot up by the maintenance, it's really close to the well. Where would you be putting snow for that parking lot? And the other parking lot, it's getting right near the wetlands, and you show pushing the snow over the bank there.
That, we're actually going to be collecting the water here and pushing it to a stormwater retention pond over here. So, and again, this would be the same. We'd be collecting the water and putting it into that retention pond. So we've got to do all that engineering to mitigate that.
Outdoor events, what type of outdoor events are you going to have? Tents on the lawn, outdoor music?
I could foresee that, having that. And part of that is we've situated the building so that we want all of the traffic and the patrons to be out in the existing lawn. Also, we want to make sure that this building goes to bed at night so that, if there is an event happening over inside in this event facility, they're not disturbing all the rest of the guests. The pool, we've kept it over kind of in the center of the property. So again, if people are out here, they're not disturbing anybody. But looking to keep this fairly low key so that, when people are here for kind of an exclusive getaway, we're not disturbing them with somebody else's fun.
And the thing, you'll be bringing stuff to the Conservation Commission?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
I know it's so preliminary. So,
Yeah, like,
yeah.
we've got a lot.
It's conceptual.
Every permit that is offered by the state, we need for this project.
Yeah,
So
it's
we'll
true.
be getting all of those. So working with DOT, with alteration of terrain, with shoreline, all of that.
The other thing, electric, were you planning on putting electric underground there or?
Yeah, we'll bring electric into the building, as well as septic. We'll have an underground pump station here, so the building will drain to that. And then that comes up and connects kind of in this area to the force main in the road. So that'll all be underground.
Are you gonna make use of solar technology at all?
Likely in the future, we would. Right now, we don't have any, proposed plans for we don't show a solar field here. We really want to save the trees and preserve the property.
Mr. Solomon, would you explain the concept behind this, the anchorage itself? Is it going to be a timeshare Is it going to be condominiums? Is it going to be just exclusively day people coming in? Or
Yeah, so this is it's a resort. It's a simple hotel where you would come, you pay for your night, or for your 3 nights, you'd stay and leave. It won't be a condominium. There won't be, shares of ownerships here.
okay,
It's kind of a classic hotel in terms of how the business functions. It's meant to be a resort where you come, you stay, you frequent the restaurants, the bar, you go to the waterfront. You're here in the winter, you go to the spa, you go skiing for the day, you come back, you have dinner, you go to the bar, and then you leave.
Right, because I would think condos and what he's talking about, we got kitchens in the rooms, and if it's timeshare, these are just rooms, hotel rooms.
Correct. The rooms it's a bathroom and a standard hotel room. That's it.
Can you, I'm sorry, you want to?
just one more question. Regards to, you're going to be open 4 seasons, correct?
Yes.
Except for mud season?
Oh, we'll be open.
I do agree that the Lakes region now is a 4 seasons spot to go to, where you have skiing, you have ice boating, and you have snowmobiling. And my concern, safety-wise, is you get some pretty harrowing accidents out there on Lake Winnisquam in the wintertime. I just hope that you put some safety things into place so that, we don't have to have, something really, really serious happen. I know it happens, but sometimes Winnisquam freezes and sometimes it doesn't. It's just one of those things, but, we're close enough to the ski resorts to make it, work viable. But if it's not going to be, timeshare, if it's not going to be condominiums, I think that's a better deal. Thank you.
Yeah, and we do have, as this past winter, we had issues with snowmobilers, breaking into the house out on the point and pulling the furniture out and having a bonfire. That's kind of a pretty frequent thing that happens. So, we're just as concerned of it as you are. We want to make sure that's not happening.
Speaking of bonfires, are there going to be any fire pits or any that type of thing outside for?
I could foresee that, over by the pool here, we'd have a, outdoor fire pit, we have a small little pavilion. So I think we would definitely have that. They would be kind of formal spaces for fires, and they would be attended by attendees. We wouldn't have patrons out there starting fires. We would have, somebody, an employee of the resort would go down and start the fire and maintain that. Do the marshmallows and s'mores. So.
Can you just talk a little bit about the lighting, like, are they going to be lighting along all the roadway, the trail, the parking? How is that going to impact the site?
Yeah, so lighting is also a concern. We don't want to look out, and we don't want to be an eyesore of the lake. We want this to be pretty low key. For most of the walking trails, we'll make sure that the lighting is low and just kind of just lights the ground. We will have lighting in the parking lots as it's required. We put those on motion sensors. So again, we'd have kind of dark sky lighting where we'd have lower lighting poles that would really screen the light to just kind of these areas. At the resort itself, there is an extensive deck system in front of the building. So these porches that again would screen the building from, if you are inside and lit up, there's kind of a threshold between you and the outside of the lake that offers some screening. But again, we want to essentially put the building to bed at night to make sure that there's no issues with lighting and provide guests from inside better views out to the lake.
I know you mentioned several times it wouldn't be able to be seen as an eyesore from Route 3, or you wouldn't be able to see the whole thing. What about signage? You plan to have any kind of signage?
We would have essentially the gate pillars here with a sign up by the road. So as you come in, and that would be kind of the first check where you feel like you're entering the property, you come in. So, that in itself, I think will screen a lot of people. They're not going to feel like they just have, open access to everything. They're coming onto the grounds. So we would have some signage there. We're not looking to have, signs here facing out towards the building.
Does the board have any other questions?
Is there a cemetery on the lot?
There is on this is, the Bedell property, there is an existing cemetery in that corner there. And that would remain.
It's gonna be moved?
No, it would remain.
Oh, remains. And is it fenced?
There's a stone wall and fence around it, yes. And that we're not looking to touch at all.
That's the property they haven't purchased yet.
Correct. We've not purchased the Bedell property yet. That's a separate piece of property.
Awesome.
John, do you have any other questions?
No, very good presentation.
Tom?
Also,
All right,
Yeah, anything else that you guys would be looking for kind of in the next round, knowing that we're gonna have all the engineering done from the DOT in terms of the traffic here. We've had the review, we've been working on kind of finalizing the road widths, the distances. We'll have stormwater runoff and all the mitigation needed for that. Signage defined, lighting defined, permeable area, yeah, landscaping, plantings, we'll have an extensive planting plan. 17% impervious currently, so well below that 30% threshold. We'll have all kind of that defined, as well as the amount of docks. There is an existing boathouse here that we'd be rebuilding, kind of in place.
Will you be considering it all underneath the parking lots, a groundwater recharge system, so that the water is collected and put underneath as opposed to running off?
Yeah, we've looked at potential permeable paving in these areas as well. Depending on what type of system you use, it takes a lot of maintenance, and if you don't maintain it, it doesn't work. So we do have some areas where, say, the stormwater from the building, that we will be collecting in underground chambers to kind of recharge the facilities from there. And then over here, we've looked at either the retention pond or putting it underground. So that's kind of how grades work and where we can put the water.
What's the timeline for the next, what are you planning? I'm just curious.
We're looking at having AOP permitting as well as DOT kind of progress to a point where in mid-July we can submit for those permits. And at that point, have all the engineering done, where we can come back to you guys and have all these things answered, knowing where the water is going, what the lighting is, and as well as the roadway. Unless you can get it done in June.
thank you very much. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not a public hearing, but we're a small crowd and it's early. Is any questions from the audience at all or comments?
Yes, I'd like to ask some on the internet.
All right.
Bill McLean?
Bill McLean.
Hi, Bill.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Hi.
Rest, please.
I live on 1011 Laconia Road. I'm on the waterfront. And I'm in the busiest section of the lake when it comes time to weekends and boat traffic. So I guess my concerns or questions that I might ask is the extra load of for the water sports people on Winnisquam. The number of docks I need to see would need to be limited for the extra traffic that's in that area, because coming from the island at a no wake zone from the bridge out to almost that little pond, that little bay that they're going to be on, that is where the speed limit is then become unlimited. I'm concerned about the canoes or kayaks or sailboats that they plan on using at the resort if they get over towards the island, because that's where the jet skis are racing, because that's the speed area. If they reframe, or we reframe them to stay in towards the beach and in towards that area where the sandbar that extends way out into the body of the water, I see that as a safety zone. If they come out and they go towards the big island, or they're out in the speed area, we're going to be in some serious accidents. People don't even follow the no wake zone in my area. So, and a lot of the people that would be there would be, I would classify, transits that don't know the rules and speed limits on the lake because they aren't familiar with the lake. So that is a concern. The number of docks where transit people would be able to have their boats for a week if they're in the water area. There's only one ramp that's public use now, and that's over towards Laconia. But a lot, with that conversation, I'll move on. My biggest concern, the road situation. If I heard him correctly in his presentation, he plans on having a lane in order to turn off to the right into the entrance, heading north, east, whichever way you look at it. So that won't interfere the traffic too much when you have a lane to enter the resort. My concern is coming from and heading towards Tilton from Belmont. Is there going to be a middle lane as there is prior to up towards the gas station and the up further in the road? If we don't have a 3-lane, if we don't have a middle lane turnoff heading west, we're going to have nothing but stoppage all the way back down to the bridge. Because at any one time, if you're having a wedding with 200 people, well, that's probably somewhere in the area of 75 cars coming all in at the same basic time. You've got restaurant people going in. You've got people going in with as far as utilizing the bar. They might be using and returning from going somewhere else for the day. That section of the road is going to be piled up every afternoon. And I have to agree in terms of road usage. Try being here motorcycle weekend on Route 11. It's a zoo. This traffic would be, so that's my concern in terms of the traffic. I'll have to go shopping in Laconia all the time. So other than that, the boat slips, the water safety, and traffic. He spoke about, I'm not too involved. I'm not that much of a neighbor to the resort. But another question I might have is, what about fireworks? I know the town, I don't even know if the town has a policy, because every time I call, no one can tell me if there's a policy or not. But we already have almost 25 days in July when people shooting off fireworks between the Belmont shore and our shore. Is the resort going to have fireworks every week like Weirs Beach?
I don't think it's that kind of hotel, but I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah, so fireworks, I can't speak for the guests. I mean, the plan is not to have fireworks. So we do have Rusty here, who would be one of the owners. I think he'd speak a little better.
My name's Rusty McClear. I'm from Meredith. I also own the Mill Falls at the lake and Church Landing. And Church Landing, we had fireworks twice a year, New Year's Eve and 4th of July. Those are the only times that we had fireplace, and I would assume fireplace fireworks. And I assume that that's what we would do here.
Thank you.
And I think you also mentioned, sir, that about the boat traffic and increased traffic as a result of that. I believe it was made clear that the boats would be used by the people who are staying at the resort. So you won't have people come up and down the road going in and out to use their boats. That's not the purpose of the landing. Is that correct?
And also you could go back and look at Church Landing.
Well, so you may need to just come to a mic, just so that they,
Sorry.
you can either use the mic with Chris, or you can sit down and speak into this.
You can sit there if you want to.
I've got to sit. All right. The table's coming with me. At Mill Falls, we had boats at only one location, which was Church Landing, and we did not have any. We had 7 docks, which was the total number of docks for the entire property, and we had 171 rooms. This is significantly smaller than that. And the only docks we had were at Church Landing, and we did not rent boats. People were allowed to rent boats from someplace else, and or they were allowed to bring a boat. but it was very rare that we had anybody trailer a boat in. We didn't have a place for them to trailer it and bring it just like this. And so it was for 30 years, it was a pretty non-issue for us.
Okay, thank you.
We will be having a third lane as well. So there'll be a turning lane. So if you're heading north, you can pull off and come in. And also if people are heading south, there'll be a center lane where you would wait and then cross. So it won't be buying up traffic.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for clarifying that. All right, any other comments or questions from the audience? Yes, would you identify yourself and give your address, please?
I'm Cynthia O'Connell. I'm the program manager for the Winnisquam Watershed Network, which is a nonprofit watershed agency.
Microphone,
Uh,
because people can hear you.
And I just wondered if the board was considering having a third-party peer review the site
Oh, yeah,
plan.
absolutely.
Our main concern is the impact of the project on the lake itself. So the stormwater management would be a critical component of that. I also wondered if you were open to the idea of a conservation easement on the forested area that you're not planning to develop.
So in terms of the permitting and the review, so we will be going to alteration of terrain to the state. So they'll be reviewing all of the stormwater for the whole property. So not only at the waterfront, but also all of the parking lots and kind of the whole site itself will be reviewed by the state. We'll also be going to have the shoreline reviewed as well. So we'll be having both of those reviews done by the state as part of the state permitting, which is fairly extensive for this. And then, no, it's one parcel of land. And although most of this is protected, we have the well protected area. This is, again, some more wetlands here, wetlands down the middle, but we're not looking to put this in conservation at this time.
And the town engineer. will
Lieutenant
also be
engineer will
reviewing.
review it as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? All right, I'll close then the comments from the public. And I just want to say that all the members of the planning board are very concerned about the concerns that have been voiced by the public. We want to protect the lake. We want to minimize the amount of traffic on Route 3. And we don't want to turn it into a circus. And that's why we had the questions that we asked tonight. We are definitely concerned about protecting the town of Tilton's wetlands and our lake. So thank you very much for your time. Look forward to your site plan.
Yes, yeah, your concerns are ours as well, so that's good.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty.
All right.
Everybody get, you got your,
Yeah. I'm gonna keep it because I wrote notes all over it, so I don't have to ask the
I
same
wrote notes
questions.
on, I wrote my notes on here. And now I don't think I can go by my agenda because I wrote notes on it. All right.
I just have a couple.
Hmm?
Go ahead. So I thought a couple kind of housekeeping things, couple things have come up. We had a request by Tractor Supply. They want to put in a propane tank. I think they're going to use it to fill, propane tanks for grills, but they want to put in a permanent tank, one of those large tanks. They actually didn't request it. They put in a permit to hook it up. So I did go down there today to see where they were going to put that in the Tractor Supply down in that west plaza. And
Never. Our refrigerator shouldn't fit black, and they don't really make black fine. It's like stainless black. So it's like
You get one, and then you gotta replace something else, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
The gated area where they store the
All that stuff is a lot.
Trailers and.
There's all kinds of stuff in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in the
Kayaks.
open.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they want to put it in there, in that gated area. So, certainly we can monitor it and make sure all the correct permits and fire will inspect the gas. I just didn't know, there's a little bit of a site change because it's structure. So I didn't know if you wanted anything before the board. Just again, full disclosure, that's going on. I think that they're putting it in the gate is less, I just make sure they weren't putting it in a parking place or, where there's any traffic, but if they're putting in that gated area, I wouldn't see any issue from this board on that, other than making sure that all the permits are.
I think it's kept locked all the time too.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Even during the
which
day.
I think would be safer than some of these gas stations that have them,
Yeah.
very close to
So,
the building.
The only thing would be if, like from the neighbor's property, whatever the safety setback is for,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
propane
make sure.
has
Oh,
special rules
Yeah.
anyway, so.
yeah, we'll make
That
sure
covers it all.
they're all
Yeah, it's tough.
abide by all, and I'm sure fire
Yeah,
will be doing the gas.
I'm gonna say as long as the fire department's happy with it, I don't have a problem.
Okay, so I want
Anybody else have a problem?
So that came up. And then the other thing that's come up is small cell towers. Has anyone heard of this? We get these new things come up all the time. I'm just going to kind of read this. It came as an email from US Cellular. And the message was to our department. And it said, I'm doing research for US Cellular for an upcoming project in Tilton. It said, are you guys at all familiar with small cells? Literally small wireless antenna facilities that typically utilize utility poles to provide coverage or capacity to an existing wireless network. US Cell is hoping to build 5 of them in the nearest future in an effort to offload some of the traffic from a nearby macro tower in the area. The image below shows the search ring for each of the 5 sites we've been issued. I realize that most are on private properties. They'll likely be searching for locations along Route 3 and the one site on 140 in the public right-of-way. That I was poking around on GIS, and it looks like Route 3 and 140 are owned by the state, and asking, do we know if permitting along this stretch of 3 and 140 would be handled through the state or with the town of Tilton or both? US Cell is working on a master agreement to be able to utilize existing Eversource-owned poles. However, we are not allowed to attach the antennas to primary power poles, which it looks like is the only thing available in this area. In that case, we prefer to set new poles, new wood poles that would be owned by US Cell. Is that something that Tilton may be open to, assuming that permitting would be through the town? Of course, there's a lot of due diligence that must be done before we get setting up new poles in the right of way. Just please let me know your thoughts.
I'm not in favor of a bunch of new poles. That's just that's my thought.
We don't really have anything in our ordinance that addresses or points to how to navigate through that, so it'll be kind of a new, so I just thought I'd put it out there.
It's aesthetics, how does it look in there?
Right.
And I don't know how they have to buy the property, they have to lease it, get an easement. That's what,
Seems like a lot.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's a to be determined. That's a,
Yeah, so we're gonna respond that we don't really, we'll respond properly, but I thought it might come up again, we're getting all these
and
things.
what's it called?
US small cell project is what they, future US small cell project.
I'll Google it when I get home.
if you have one, are you going to open the door for one every quarter
Oh,
mile?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would think if they could put them on the utility poles, it might not be,
Existing.
they're already existing, but.
Let's put, I'd be able to put new poles up in addition to what's there now. I mean, we're talking about trying to arrange the funds to bury cable, not
Right, but
add to
cell,
what's there.
cell service is a premium, right? And
Yeah.
That's everyone's on.
And then the other thing is just an antenna. It can't just be just an antenna.
No,
It's got to have AC power, some kind of box for amplifiers and converters.
Exactly.
Like the major towers do, right? You got all those
yeah.
power
Yeah.
stations and
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
In fact, they're across the street from me now servicing the tower right across the street from me. We can hear them talking to each other as clear as day, even though they're 600 feet away
Yeah.
because of the voice carrying. And they have to do this every so often, once or twice a year, because of the wind and,
Mhm.
and I mean, I have no problem with them doing that. They need to do it. But I don't think putting new poles in the town is, just something we don't really need. We've got now, there's that repeater tower on Caleb Hill Road, and there's another one on Vista Heights. And I don't know if there's a third one somewhere, but that's all featured. Yeah, Belknap's the big repeater, right? Yeah, that's a repeater, basically.
And then you have structures and setbacks and
I know, it seemed like a lot when I saw it, so
Yeah.
I,
the more I think about it. Have fun with that.
Okay. Anything else?
that's all I have, those 2 items.
Anybody have anything else?
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, no, one more thing, I'm sorry, we
Oh,
didn't do the
got
minutes.
Minutes.
And now that Christine is here and John, maybe we can talk about the 6 o'clock thing.
Oh, yes, we tabled. I was all set to come in and so was Tom.
Yeah, she's
Tom
telling
got here at
Come in
6.
at 6. I'm like,
I
what?
called her and told her
The
to come in
agenda
at
says
6.
6:30.
Because I read the minutes just before I come in.
Oh, right.
And there it was in the minutes, it's been tabled. We talked last time we met about meeting at 6 o'clock instead of 6:30. And none of the people who were here had an objection to doing that. But John, you and Christine were not here at the time. So would you like?
And it would be
to talk about-
consistent, zoning boards at 6. I tend to find a lot of people come late for the zoning board meeting, they think it's 6:30. People come early for this one because one's 6:30, one's 6. Be more consistent to be at 6. I would prefer 6, I'm here through, I don't travel.
Yeah, quicker
but-
day for you too.
Yeah, I mean, it's
It's a
Waiting
very
for
long
all
day.
of
it's
us.
just a half hour, but if, I know Christine travels, so I wasn't sure if,
Well, I checked with her when I
I
told her to come in.
only,
at
I
6.
travel more during like March, April, September and October are my biggest, so there's no guarantee I'd be here. The rest, I'm here all the time.
Okay, so you two don't have a problem with it?
I don't.
And I talked to John, and he doesn't, so. So we can vote then? All in favor of changing our meetings to 6 o'clock? I'll make a motion to do that. Is there a second?
Second.
We all look at him.
Any discussion at all on it? Everybody's happy with it? All right, all in favor of changing our meeting time to 6 o'clock? Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so it is 6 o'clock. from now
Great.
on.
that's great, thank you. And one other just note, just be aware, I will post it that way and make sure I tell you clearly, but most likely when we do meet with the preserve for the site plan review, we probably will meet at the police station because I'm sure more people would come at that point. We had almost 70 people for zoning. So, I mean, this was just conceptual, this wasn't noticed.
Okay.
So, yeah, don't be surprised. They went well there. They have, I mean, it's beautiful space, so, but I think it, rather than have to, because we can only allow 30 people up here by capacity. So by the time you get the applicants. All right, but it sounds like it's not going to happen until
July.
August.
Yeah,
Yeah, August.
all right. Approval of minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Well, I'll make a motion.
I
to
wasn't
approve.
here, so.
Me
I
neither.
know you weren't. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for April 26, 2022. Is there a
Second.
second? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2 abstentions.
Well, I'm just.
Well, before we
I watched the
abstain,
videos.
Don't we have to have a minimum number to vote on it? Because even though we
I don't
weren't
know.
here, the rules say you still can vote on the
Yeah, you can
minutes.
still vote
Yeah.
on the minutes.
And I think you have to have a minimum of votes, right?
Well, 2 in favor, 2 abstain. You're
Yeah.
fine.
That's fine.
But you don't have to abstain, though.
I mean,
You are
I
absolutely right. You
watched
don't
it.
have to abstain.
I watched the video.
Yeah.
So,
You feel like you were here?
this reflects what was said, so I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to abstain.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we're glad to see you, Mr. Cuthbert.
Nice to be seen. I didn't realize Rusty McClure was part of this Anchorage thing. I've been on the peripheral edges of Rusty's world for 25 years and never once, whether it's his properties or his personal life, have I ever seen him do anything half-assed. Not once. His properties are beautiful. Top flight all the way.